Tales from the Hood gives us the simple solution that Walter's stepdaddy had a monster tattoo, but that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the full story.
What was really happening in that room when the monster closed the door?
We're about to do a full movie breakdown of the 1995 film Tales from the Hood like you've never seen before, focusing on tale number 2, Boys Do Get Bruised.
In this tale, a young boy is tormented by a monster that lives in his own home.
Man, what type of what the f happening here?
We are introduced by Mr. Sims to tale number 2 as he's walking the 3 guys through, and he says,
It's a classic case of what is and isn't real.
This tale is about what's real in the mind of a boy named Walter.
Perception, reality.
Perception versus reality. And we'd had this long conversation about his statement of the cornucopia of divergent ideas. Remember that we talked about in the first breakdown that we did. So we won't go into that now, but if you missed it, that is a must listen to video. Now we're told that we're going to be introduced to this little boy. Let's see what Walter has going on.
Walter wakes up and he has a flashlight and he sees pictures of what looks like a monster all over the wall, but each body part is on a different page and they're actually hung up on the wall of his room. And then we hear the strange music and his growling and stuff, and then the doorknob starts to turn, right? So it's like a typical horror movie.
Where you're wondering what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and I always thought that this should be the first story, just the way that Tale 2 opened.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it would have set it up nicely for like, okay, we're going to get these typical type of horror stories, with a monster and, this monster on the other side of the door or this barrier.
Yeah, I do wonder it makes sense as to why tale 4 was number 4, but the first 3 tales really could have come, almost in any order. And why didn't they put this tale first? Because it is traditional. And, you hear the sounds and it reminds us of all of when we were kids. I know I was afraid of the dark. And so you're here in the dark. First thing he does is he turns on his flashlight and you're hearing these sounds, and the door is turning, but nothing actually happens. And isn't that like when you're a kid, nothing really actually happened to any of us as far as like an actual monster. But next thing we hear a school bell and he's in school. We find out that Walter is new to his school today. It's his first day of school and he's introduced to the class, the traditional, hey, Walter, after the teacher's like, say hello to Walter kind of thing.
I want you all to say hello to Walter.
And I want to just say that also in this movie is Brandon Hammond, the little boy. And we have seen him in so many movies, Soul Food, Menace to Society as young Kane, just a ton of movies that he was in at this point. And also a treat, the teacher here is Rusty Cundieff, and he is the director and writer of Tales from the Hood. So he did put himself as an actor in one of the tales.
Yeah, and he said for better or worse. But so you notice in this scene, they have those stick figures that's hanging up all around the classroom when he walks in.
Mm-hmm.
And for another Jordan Peele reference, it reminds me of Jordan Peele film Us and Hands Across America. And there's a scene where they're in the classroom with a blackboard. I think they're on the underground, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And they show, a whole bunch of stick figures kind of holding hands and stuff and all these different places.
I'm convinced after watching this that, this was like sort of an part inspiration for Jordan Peele. So as usual, you're the new kid in school. There's always going to be some bully. And before we know it, Walter is in a fight and the teacher has to break up this fight.
Yeah, we don't like punk, not a punk.
Hey, ho, 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 ho!
Yeah, Walter just got beat up. Like one kid pushed him and I think the other one beat him up.
Right.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. So the important, wonderful thing that's happening right now, holiday season 2025, is that we have a deep dive on demand sale. If you love our deep dives, like what we're doing here, like what we've done in many other videos, grab our holiday deep dive on demand deal, 2 for $75. Y'all know that they are currently regular $50 each. So this will give you a discount. So you can pick any 2 films. We deliver the deep analysis. You get executive producer credit on screen. And this is a limited time holiday special. So don't miss out, because January 1st, 2026, the price for the deep dive on demands is going up to $75 each. So if you're watching at a different time, the sale may be over, but get your deal. Go to the description. The link is there. 2 for $75, deep dive on demand. And let me just say also that I think because of the uniforms that are being worn, I know a lot of public schools wear uniforms, but they have the plaid and everything mixed in their uniform. So I feel like he's actually at a private school, which says something about the socioeconomics, right, of his family, that, you know, apparently they can at least afford to pay for a private school. And this is important because Rusty was talking about this in his director's commentary, and how, you know, he didn't want to take the route of, oh, you know, you are a poor family and this is going on with what we're about to see. But he wanted to have like a solidly middle class family and show that the things going on in their home could happen to anybody.
Here, honey, hold this up to your head.
Walter got beat up so bad he had to go see the nurse, it appears. And it shouldn't be funny, but something is wrong with him. He got a whole, I guess there's ice on his head or something. Like, he got beat really bad. But they discover some other bruises on Walter. And they're like, Tyrone didn't do this to him. These look pretty old.
I am worried about that, though. That didn't just happen. It's a couple of days old.
The school nurse is making some observations, and you know how it is in the schools. They're looking for bruises and things like that on the children to know if something's happening in their home. So again, the teacher and the nurse are trying to get word out of Walter as to who's put these bruises on his body. They ask about his mother. He said, no, it's not her. Ask about, did his father do this to him? And he says he's dead.
Your father, did he do this?
He's dead.
And so, you know, they continue to try to get him to confess, but he is not trying to say anything.
Walter, if you tell me and Nurse Parchman, it'll just be our little secret, okay?
And even the teacher is like, this could be our little secret, you know, to still compel him, but he's not hearing it. Finally, Walter tells him that basically it's the monster doing these things.
The monster. He came after my dad died.
And the teacher's like, the monster, you know. But Walter is dead serious. It's the monster doing these things. This is how he sees it from his child's point of view. And I don't think the teacher is getting it.
If you decide you want to tell me what really happened, I'm going to be here to listen, okay?
Walter tells them that the monster did it. Nobody believes him. And he said it came after my dad died, right? So it kind of sounds like something that a child would make up, you know, after an event like separation from father, or, you know, after a death.
Right. And I'm like, what kind of, you know, they're not actual child psychologists, but like, what kind of teacher of these young children wouldn't recognize that the kid is trying to communicate something? And he's like, well, when you decide to tell the truth, then let me know,
Yeah,
you know.
But the thing is that we're watching a horror film. So we know it's a monster because we just seen what happened at the door, right? We know it's a horror film. So we know, the audience knows that it's really a monster at this point.
Yes, but I like to believe that even if I was a teacher and knew nothing about what his experiences home were, if this kid is saying monster or something, then my next thought is going to be, oh, okay, is he calling a person a monster? What is he, you know, what is this monster? Or is he making something up? And if he is this an indicator of some other type of trauma or something he's got going on in his life that maybe he needs to talk to somebody about?
Because the bruises, they assume that it's his mama because the daddy is gone. That's what I think is happening. They just want him to confirm, tell us it's your mama who's beating you.
So that we can call the police on her and the people, and then you can, you know, get put in an institution. And before he walks off, Walter is like, he said no one would believe me.
He said no one would believe me.
So what do we know about the monster? We know the monster is a male figure, and he is the monster to this boy.
Yeah.
But just the idea, nobody's gonna believe me. And the teacher and the nurse just sit there and they just look at the boy,
It sounds like a different type of abuse to me with a statement like that. For these sorts of beatings or whoopings, I don't know if it's typically told, oh, no one's going to believe that I'm whooping you.
Yeah, but for that one particular type, that's usually the one that nobody's gonna believe you.
Right.
Interesting. In the next scene, Walter is in bed again and it's nighttime and he is terrified. He's got his light on and he's crying. You see the tears streaming down his face. There's banging. There are these monster sounds again, almost like wild animal sounds, like some type of lion or tiger, growl and roar. And then there's this banging that's on the door as the handle rattles again. But this time, the door actually does open, and we see like this monster-looking hand, an animal hand with these nasty-looking nails and stuff, right around the door as the door is opening. Right before the door opened, he cut his light off and lay down, to just kind of act like he was sleeping and whatnot. But he hears all of this. And the thought that comes to mind for me is, what's going on outside of the door? Like, is it the commotion of what this monster is doing outside? Because clearly in both cases, the monster didn't actually really come into the bedroom to do something to him. So what is going on?
To me, that's what it looked like. Like the monster is trying to open the door. He had the door, stuff in front of the door. So that's why the monster kept hitting the door, because the monster is trying to push that stuff out of the way. So he's trying to open the door. But the thing that I really noticed is that Walter doesn't do anything. He just sits there and he cries because it's inevitable. It's going to happen. He doesn't scream. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't try to hide, really. All he does is, like you said, try to maybe act like he was asleep and hide under the cover.
And imagine like how powerless you must feel if you're in that situation where, you've got this monster in your house. Usually your home is a place where you can have peace and safety and all that. He is not safe in his own home. And that is like terribly disturbing, which points to kind of all of these tales. It's not the goblins and ghost stories as much as it's like the realities of life that can be just so disturbing and terrifying that you see in Tales from the Hood. Walter's back in school. We see him the next day. He tells the teacher he's back.
He's back.
And he's got bruises on his arm, and he winds up at in the nurse's office again.
Walter.
At first, I was like, maybe the monster didn't actually come in and do anything to him, but clearly that's not the case because he's now got more bruises than he had before, and they have to wrap his arm up in the nurse's office.
Walter, you be sure to put this back, just like...
It kind of shows another scene with the monster violating him. I think it's a different type of abuse because you don't hear like the whips and hits. You don't hear ow, ow, ow. It's just stop. It's sort of a thing. And maybe that's what they were going for, but without saying it and not having to actually go into it, in films such as this. And the title of it is Boys Do Get Bruised.
Which points to something that I think people are always thinking of, that type of thing happening to girls, right?
Right.
And it happens to boys too, more often than, people are aware of or care to know. A lot of you miss videos because you're not getting your YouTube notifications. And so we have fixed this. Subscribe to our mailing list for the personalized notifications of all of our videos as they're released across all of our channels. You'll get an email, and it's as simple as that. And the link is in the description, so be sure to subscribe for that. Now we see Walter's in the classroom with his teacher.
You didn't want to go outside?
He's not out playing, outside at recess with the rest of the kids. He's drawing or coloring. and we see that he's drawn the monster, and he tells his teacher that the girl who sits behind him has told him that he needs to, anything that scares him, draw it on a piece of paper, and then you destroy it, like by burning it or throwing it away or tearing it up.
Rory said that her mom said to draw the things that scared her, then tear it up or burn it.
That's what he's doing. He is getting his ammunition together because he's desperate, clearly. And he's like, I'm about to draw this monster and, tear him up.
And then it'll go away. I'm gonna burn them up.
The teacher asks Walter, does he think that he can talk to his mother about the monster? And Walter says she doesn't want to hear it.
About the monster. You've told her, haven't you?
She doesn't want to hear it.
Which is typical of what we were talking about, where many of these cases, where you have some other man move into the home and it's a girl, right?
Mm-hmm.
You sometimes hear them say that the mother didn't want to hear him when they had complaints
Yeah.
about what was going on.
Yeah. And the other thing that happened in this scene is that he shows his teacher that he's also drawn Tyrone, who was the school bully who had beat him up as well.
That's Tyrone.
And so the teacher is realizing, like, okay, this kid has some issues and I probably need to talk to the mother, and maybe get involved. I think he's really starting to see the extent of his problems because he's not behaving the way that the other kids are behaving. He's isolated himself. He's, getting into fights at school and things. And so finally, the teacher realizes that an intervention is probably necessary.
But why does the teacher basically trash his coping mechanism? He's just like, I don't think that's going to work, what Lori told you about drawing these people.
I don't think drawing these pictures is really the answer to your problem.
And maybe because it came from another kid, right? Oh, that couldn't possibly work. And it sounds outrageous, but you know what? If that's something that helps people to cope, I mean, really, what would be wrong with that, I suppose?
Right, and maybe she was told that by a professional.
Yeah, well, she said her mother told her, but maybe the mother is a professional or was told that by a professional. And actually, I've heard of that, where people say, you write down all of the things that bother you or you do whatever. And then, you have this symbolic act of like burning the paper that you put these things on, or you tear it up and throw it away.
Bruh.
Yeah, that's in, that is clearly part of the process for a lot of people. So, the teacher just didn't know what he was talking about. But that's not uncommon, right? You shouldn't laugh. So, the next thing is that it cuts to this scene where we hear the scream of a kid that we later find out is Tyrone the bully. And what had happened just before this is the paper that Tyrone's picture was on, the teacher had, was on the floor. And Walter picks this paper up and he crumbles it up in his hand. And we hear at the same time that Tyrone screamed. Next thing you know, ambulance comes, find out that the boy has broken both of his arms and his legs.
He was running in the building after recess and fell down the stairs. How do you break both arms and legs? Falling down.
And the other teacher or school personnel is like, boy must have had weak bones.
Boy must have had weak bones.
Bruh.
So that's something that we continue to see throughout Tales from the Hood, is this kind of comic relief in the midst of these very heavy stories. So basically what it appears has happened is that, this crumpling of the paper caused Tyrone to crumple, and be hurt and wheeled out of there. But, hey, he's out of Walter's way now. And then, of course, as the camera pans up, we see Walter in the window looking down on this scene.
I wonder how they knew that he broke both arms and legs.
Maybe they were crumpled up.
That was quick, maybe.
Oh, you know how you look at those sports injuries and then you just know, hey, it's broke.
Yeah, and they had to come and straighten them out.
That had to be painful.
Who is it?
Mr. Garvey, I'm one of Walter's teachers from school.
Next scene, we see Walter's teacher is like, I got to make a house call. So he goes to the boy's house and his mother opens the door. His mother is played by Paula Jai Parker. She's in her robe and she gets flirty with the teacher at the door. And he's like, oh, Mrs. blah, blah, blah. She's like, Miss. So in other words, like, I could be available if necessary. And it just is this weird vibe between her and the boy's teacher who has shown up. And, he's like, look, can I come in? I need to talk to you.
Miss Johnson, I came to talk to you about your boy Walter.
The teacher goes inside and explains that he's seen all of these bruises on Walter and he's asking his mother about it. The mother is busy cleaning like bird crap or something off of the teacher's shoulder, which gives her the opportunity to touch him and stuff and be close to him and be flirting with him.
What kind of problems? I mean, all kids have problems, don't they?
But she completely is in denial. She's just like, oh, he's clumsy. I don't know where he got the bruises. Not from me, that kind of thing. So she's just kind of single-minded, just trying to flirt with this guy. She doesn't really care about what the teacher has made this house call to. I mean, how often do teachers come to kids' homes?
Yeah, and at this point, the teacher is still under the assumption that she's a single mother. And because all of the information that he got from Walter, right? So she's this single mother. She's the only one in the home. So this mother is flirting with him, who is possibly hitting on her child, right? Which is the reason why he's visiting, which really makes it awkward.
And she's like the prime suspect, I guess you could say, in that situation, considering that she's the only one there from his point of view.
The boy's clumsy. He's always falling over something.
The teacher brings up that Walter actually said that it's a monster that lives in a house.
I mean, a monster in particular that he says lives here in the house.
And I like how they just pushed in with the camera and she's like, oh, I know about this monster, without actually telling the teacher that.
Mm-hmm.
And she calls Walter out because now I got to confront you directly because you're bringing up these stories about this monster who he clearly has brought up to the mother at least a couple times.
Walter!
Listen, there's no need.
But what I hate is just like how the default setting is that Walter is about to be in trouble. Something's going on with Walter, but now he's in trouble because now this teacher is at the house and is asking questions and whatever and causing her problems in her life, because he's mentioning this, quote, monster.
Get over here.
Walter comes in the room. She snatches Walter up like in a very kind of like physical way that would make you think maybe she's the one who is doing stuff.
Didn't I tell you to stop with all this monster foolishness, didn't I?
But she's insisting that these are tales, he's just, his stories or whatever. And did not tell you to stop with all this monster foolishness and that. And the teacher is just watching this scene. And, Walter is not saying anything. He's just accepting him being chastised by his mother. And then you hear this horn beeping outside and somebody is home. Yeah, and everybody looks shook.
Everybody looks shook. But so from an audience standpoint of someone who never seen the movie, so what we have here, we have a boy who's saying a monster is beating on him. He has the bruises and everything. He has told the mother don't believe him. He told the teacher don't believe him. Now the teacher shows up to the house and the mother is basically confronting the boy saying you're making up these stories. So the teacher believes it's the mother, and then the mother is showing signs that it actually is her who's doing it, like, oh, he's making up these stories, right? Because if you were the one who was doing it, you actually probably would respond like that. You're making up these stories, stop telling people these stories, and then to give the excuse that, oh, that boy is just clumsy and he's always falling and hurting himself.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you have to, if you've seen this before, think back to when you first saw it and how you would see it when you were first seeing the movie.
With those new eyes. Yeah.
Baby, go to your room now.
Clearly somebody is coming home. She's telling the boy, go upstairs to your room. She tells the teacher, be quiet, don't say nothing. And the next thing she does is she goes and grabs a sweater because she's like, I need to cover my body up because you kind of came out with your shoulders and top parts of your body a little bit more exposed, and now you put some clothes on.
Give me a second to talk.
Please. Just keep quiet.
So she knows she was being inappropriate.
Mm-hmm. Or she knows whoever is coming is going to have a problem with it.
Which means she was being inappropriate.
Maybe. But, crazy people find things inappropriate, that may or may not be. But in this case, she was definitely flirting with this man.
David Alan Grier shows up and he got this lean when he's standing, when he walk in the door, and he just go right into it. Why you just standing there? Why didn't you get the door?
Well, why are you just standing there? Why the hell didn't you get the door?
Like, greet me at the door. And, I have to say that David Alan Grier in this role was a surprise. But I think it's what made it even better. And at the same time, David Alan Grier walks in and little Walter is at the top of the stairs just watching. And this reminds me of the scene in Eve's Bayou where Eve is on the stairs at her house and she's watching the interactions between Cecily, her sister, and her father, the great Dr. Lewis. And it's kind of like the stairs, sitting on the stairs is kind of how children eavesdrop or people eavesdrop, right? You're not actually in the room, but it gives you this higher vantage point where you're able to kind of see and observe all that is going on.
They like to do this with children where they're actually doing like a first person point of view.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do it that often with adults, but they like to do it as children. I guess that's them acting like they're getting into the minds and behind the eyes of children for some reason, like you have to.
Yeah, and because I think children are so often put away and made to be, seen and not heard, or get out of here, don't even be seen, right? So he's at a point where you really aren't looking at him. If you're in the room, you're conducting whatever's going on downstairs, and he's almost upstairs.
And it's a reminder that children see what you're doing, whether you're aware of them or not. They're aware of what you're doing and saying.
Yep.
Is there a problem?
No, he just came over to drop off some homework.
The teacher just went all the way off the rails.
Walter does seem to be having a few small problems.
Okay, so he had the woman in the house, Walter's mom, who he probably suspected. And then this other guy shows up who is yelling at the mother. And the mother's like, no problem. He was just leaving, and lied about why he was there. And then the teacher sits down at the table with the man and says, oh, besides the bruises, he's drawing these pictures and he's talking about a monster.
This monster that he says is in the house.
Like bruh, you can't read the room.
But, I think that could actually happen when you have just a teacher who's not trained on something like this, but they want to help, and you're probably really making stuff worse than it is.
Mm-hmm. But isn't that kind of the story of how it always goes? The people who start meddling or complaining or asking questions, that's getting the people who live in that home in trouble, right? If you're rocking the boat, then the person who is the one who is aggressive and acting out is gonna do that even more so, because this man isn't gonna like it. And let's talk about how David Alan Grier confronts the teacher. The first thing he really says to the teacher is, do we have a problem? Those are like some of the most confrontational words ever, because if you start the conversation with, do we have a problem? That's like already coming ready to fight. You know what I mean? And then the teacher is still not reading the room and he's staying, and then you're confessing all this stuff. Like, do you realize you are getting the mother and the boy in deep crap?
So what is the resolution at this point? Or are you believing, did he not believe that it was the mother or this boyfriend at least?
I think he's thinking the boy is definitely lying about the monster thing. And so he's more like, well, your kid's got problems because he's talking about a monster. And
he should have realized that the monster was one of these people. At this point, he's drawing a picture of a monster. He's saying the monster is putting these bruises on him. Teacher.
Lives with him. Hello, teacher.
And he showed up after his dad died.
Yep.
All the clues are there.
Yep. Please note that in this Tales from the Hood series, we've decided to create a separate video for each of the tales so that we can fully examine what happens with each character without time constraints. Be sure to check out our breakdowns of the other tales and wraparound story linked in the description below.
The teacher says he thinks, speaking of Walter, he thinks he needs to kill the monster.
He thinks he needs to kill the monster.
After everything the teacher saw and observed, that's what he told this man who came in basically throwing the hammer down.
He really believes it.
Yeah, and now he's just probably gonna skip his happy behind on out. Well, my work here is done.
Oh, no, you say it's no monster? Goodbye.
All right. Sounds good. Like, this is the most insane kind of situation. And he should have, I just keep going back. You should be able to read the room. But how about David Allen Greer's face when he's like, he thinks he needs to kill the monster. And he's like, oh, really? And the mama is like, oh, it done hit the fan now. And you know, it's palpable because you just know that it's about to be some mess as soon as this teacher leaves this house.
That's a testament to David Allen Greer's acting chops, because you see it on his face this entire time. But when he says certain things, it's like he doesn't need to speak the words because his face and his body language is telling everything we need to know about what this character is thinking.
And how did he get the picture of the monster that the little boy drew? How did he get that picture? Because I thought that Walter had kept the picture. So how does he pull out this picture from his satchel to give to David Allen Greer to be like, yeah, here's a picture of the monster too, just to show I'm not lying, you know? Yeah.
I think Walter drew multiple pictures because in the beginning we seen he had pictures of the monster already on the wall. He was drawing pictures in the classroom. Well, he drew one of Tyrone and one of the monster. So maybe he had more than one, or the teacher just took the one that he drew in class. But with the one with Tyrone, when this tale starts, it's just like a traditional horror, right? We got this monster and everything. And then we see another scene. Oh, a monster again. But then when Walter balls up that paper and Tyrone basically takes his fall, we kind of go into, I don't know if it's the realm of exactly sci-fi sort of a horror. What do you call that?
I guess I'd call it like a sci-fi horror kind of thing.
Yeah, because it's not typically just a monster slasher sort of thing at that point. Now we know there's this other connection, and now we have this,
like you have this supernatural sort of element.
Supernatural. That's what I was thinking of. And now we have this other paper. So we know something has to be done with this paper for this monster, because we've already seen what happened with Tyrone when he crumbled up the paper.
So that's our clue.
That's it. You'll just talk to him.
David Allen Greer's character's only response is, I will talk to him. And he says it very calmly. And the teacher's like, that's all you're going to do? You just going to talk to him? And he's like, I will talk to him.
I will talk to him.
Like, clearly we know that it's going to be more than talking going on, but the teacher is acting like he's just completely dumb and doesn't know what's possibly going on. But he's quickly dismissed by David Allen Greer's character and told, you know, he tells his woman, hey, walk him to the door, like, get this fool out of the house.
Would you show him to the door, please?
And she's walking slow as molasses because she already knows that David Allen Greer is about to bring that hammer down as soon as the teacher probably ain't going to drive away before he's starting his havoc.
And he starts to roll up his sleeves.
We see that the teacher is leaving. He's trying to talk to the mother on the way out. She's like, just get out, just go, basically.
Miss Johnson.
And the teacher goes on to his car. And little Walter is up in his room at this point, looking down on the teacher getting in his car like, man, I am in a world of mess. And we hear and see that, you know, a monster is growling and outside of his door, and we hear the stomps coming up the stairs.
So we see the monster come through the door, and then it turns out to be the left arm of David Allen Greer. And he say, you like to draw fucked up pictures of people, huh?
You like to draw fucked up pictures of people, huh?
Holding the picture of the monster.
And, you know, I felt like that was just, again, another insertion of the comic relief, but for, you know, the tragedy that is about to take place. But I felt kind of like, man, that's bad. But you know what else, too? What about the shadow on the wall? Because the shadow is not David Allen Greer's shadow. It's like some type of grotesque looking monster thing.
Yeah, it's a shadow of a monster. So that's who he is.
Yep. The monster grabs little Walter, and then his mom tries to intervene. And once she tries to intervene, the monster's attention is turned away from Walter.
Oh, no!
And he like gives her, I mean, he just knocks her straight in the face pretty much. And then after that proceeds to, use his belt on her brutally.
Teach you and that boy some respect.
The teacher sees the shadows of the guy doing the belt work, and he runs up and he starts beating the door.
Open up.
But do you do this? Is this what happens?
I don't know. Go to the comments and let us know. Like, if you're outside and you see this going on, what do you do? Do you run back in the house, or do you call the police? Like, what do you do if you see this? What do you do?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't want to call the police, because we know what Tail 1 is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get involved in other people's stuff, because you know what the monster can do to me, right? And me just coming up with a briefcase. So I don't know what you do. Do you just leave? Like,
I think he felt some sense of obligation to try to save them, right? Because he was the one who got it started, right? The whole thing is going on because you showed up at the house, and then you had the nerve to, be like, and he's drawing pictures of the monster, and like, you're doing what you think you should do, but you have made their situation many times worse, and you've kind of caused what's there in the moment, or at least triggered it, right? And so maybe he just feels like, I should do this.
Carl couldn't even wait until the teacher pulled off and left.
No. And then how he runs down the stairs and he hops over the stairs while he's chasing the little boy.
Talking about you gonna draw a picture of me to kill me?
You gonna make a picture to kill me? Motherfucker! Come here!
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, you have never seen David Alan Grier like this before. Like, to me, he's one of the best comedic actors ever. And then to see him in this role where he just is completely different. Ain't nothing funny about him in this role.
Oh, you gonna draw a picture of somebody, make them look like a monster? What, you think that shit is funny?
Then he says, you won't draw a picture of somebody, make them look like a monster? You think that shit is funny? And it is revealed that he has a tattoo that says monster. So that could be where he got it from, but he is also a monster. It's just a little extra tidbit they threw in there for us.
Yeah, but you know what I always think to myself too is like, all right, this is what you look like to this boy. Like, you look like a monster. You don't even look like yourself. You don't, and it reminds me of, like, how people's attitude could be ugly, or they just, somebody who otherwise might be an attractive individual, the more you see how their attitude is nasty and mean and whatever, then they just turn ugly, and unattractive as a result of their attitude, not because of how they look in reality.
Yeah,
right?
But part of it is too, he's like, you want to draw a picture, make me look like a monster, but he has a tattoo of a monster.
And
so
you are a monster. That's your nickname.
Yeah, he identifies as a monster.
Yeah.
At the very least. But somehow somebody drawing a picture of what you represent yourself as is just going too far.
And you think it's funny. Now, this is not the first reference he made to thinking something is funny. Like, okay, why would the little boy think that was funny? And it makes me kind of want to delve more into David Alan Grier's character and wonder, like, what made him this way? And of course, we know traditionally, as they talk about bullies and people who behave this way is, low self-concept, low self-esteem and things like that. And maybe he himself is a victim of this same type of thing going on within his home, and he's one of the people who didn't make it end with him. He just continued it on, and he said, now I'm the one with the upper hand, and, and that could be what's going on here too. Then the teacher finally gets in when the mother opens the door, and her face is jacked up.
You okay?
And he is in the kitchen. Monster is in the kitchen getting with little Walter and just like giving him shots to the face, like he just is a grown man in a bar fight. And the teacher is coming in. He's like, "You okay?" And he comes in. And he's like, "Hey, man, ease up, stop." He's trying to get the monster to stop what he's doing.
Stop it! Just take it easy.
Then, of course, the monster turns attention to the teacher and then starts whooping him up.
Easy, this ain't your motherfucking house.
And then, like, who knew David Allen Greer had moves like this? Like, he's sidestepping him and everything.
That's why you don't run up in there, because this could be you. But I guess at the end of the day, the teacher could say, well, at least I tried.
Yeah. He may not even be able to say that at the end if the teacher, was to have his way. Like, you never really know what you're running up into or who you're running up on. That's kind of the thing.
As Carl is beating the teacher, they throw in some monster sounds. So he's beating him like,
And he's doing all of this like in a suit with a tie on. Well, not a suit coat, but he's got his like work clothes on, a tie and everything.
What does he do? I wonder what this monster does.
Probably something real respectable. Because he's making money for them to, be in a nice kind of nicer neighborhood with a nice house and, be taken care of and everything. But they in here doing all this.
So Sissy grabs a cast iron skillet and she is about to hit Carl, but then she screams out and alerts him to the fact that she's about to hit him with this cast iron skillet.
And it was going to be, what I love is it was going to be the moment of triumph, but it doesn't actually get to happen, right? I love they give it to us and they snatch it away.
Yeah, so if this is going to be you, do not scream out, motherfucker!
Uh-huh.
You just got to
come with it quiet.
Yeah, it's called telegraphing when you do that.
Because the other thing is, at this moment in the fight that's going on in this house, like, Carl is single-handedly just, roundhouse taking out, 3 different people, just keeping them all down. Like, the 3 of y'all are no match for Carl.
Carl gets the cast iron skillet. He's about to smash on somebody. And Walter takes the picture that he drew and he creases it on the monster's arm. And David Allen Greer's arm just popped back. I remember when I first saw that, man, that was so shocking.
With the skillet in it, it just leans. He completely leans back, and then he's like, "Oh, it's working!" And so he continues to like crease and and twist this paper. Until Carl is like twisted in this mass of human
pretzel
on the floor. And then he's got the nerve to still be talking crap. He's like, this ain't over.
This shit ain't over yet, bitch.
But just think, he didn't go out like Tyrone did. He got all bent up, but he's just still talking like normal. He don't seem too hurt. He didn't really scream out. You just kind of had this little monster scream.
Maybe it was his rage, you know what I'm saying? That just, he was so angry that even his injuries, the adrenaline or whatever is pumping, and his injuries are, not fully apparent to him at this point. But they twisted him up into a pretzel into the ground, and it takes Rusty, the director, to talk about what it took to actually produce this, because you got to remember, this is like in 1995, so all of the CGI and special effects you have now, that they didn't have, and in addition to that, the budget wasn't even going to support that. So he said all of the effects that you see in this movie, like, they pretty much did them manually in this scene, and so David Allen Greer is like, part of his body is underneath the floor, and they had to, I think he said they had to build, no, that was a different scene, but basically he's under the floor, and then you've got this pretzel body part that's around him so that he could keep on talking mess.
But they had to find a way to actually twist him too while he's under the floor so that he could still twist around like they showed him twist.
Yep.
Sissy says, what are we going to do? They find him here like this. No one is going to believe us.
What are we going to do? They find him here like this. No one's going to believe us.
The teacher remembers what Lori told Walter and said, gives him the picture, lights the fire on the stove, and says, you know what to do.
Walter, You know what to do.
Because he said you have to basically rip it up, destroy it, or burn it. Basically.
Right. And just prior to this, the mother actually steps on the piece of paper and you see kind of like blood squirt out of the balled up piece of paper. For those of you who don't know, you should visit axiom.app and you'll be able to look at all of the recent videos across all of our channels. And I'm putting that on the screen right now just so y'all can see it and see what it looks like. Because there are a ton of videos that are over there. And also, I think that there are at least about 100 exclusive videos that are available for our Patreon members and our YouTube members. So, you know, if you're interested in more of our content, as I've seen many of you binge watching, be sure to check those things out. And the question that I have is, who actually killed Carl? Was it Walter or was it his mother? You know,
I don't think he's I don't think he's making it after what Walter did.
I don't think so either, but like, you know, so we'd say they both did it, but like what the mother did definitely like put the end on him.
Yeah, because she just had to get her lick back. That's what
she needed to after all.
Yeah.
And
it's
probably
like, let me give me
her,
some.
Yeah. So she got in on. And then I also think the reason that it was that way is because she is the mother. She's supposed to be protecting her child, right? And she knew doggone well that man was around there clowning and acting like that. And so, you know, clearly he was doing physical things, but then we also suspect that he was doing some other stuff perhaps to Walter behind the scenes that maybe the mother didn't actually know about. But for sure she knew that he was putting his hands on Walter, you know, just like he did all of them in this scene, you know. And I think maybe this was her like protecting him, taking it, you know, taking her power back as the protector of her child and being like, no. And, you know, she does the final squish kind of thing. But what I also found interesting is that the teacher is the one I thought the teacher was going to put the paper on the fire on the stove himself. But he's like, no, Walter, you do the honors. And why do you think that?
The teacher don't want no part of that. When the teacher saw him get twisted up like that, he's like, this is going to be lifelong trauma. And I don't want no parts in this. But like you said, who actually killed him, right? So you got the mother and Walter, the only ones who really had their hand in his fall. Mm-hmm. So the teacher is trying to wipe his hands of it and be like, to put it on a little kid. Like, I think that's what the teacher is doing.
Come over here, Walter. You know what to do.
Yeah. But why do you give that power to a kid, though, like that?
Or put that on them, right? Because that's heavy. He already had gone through enough, and now, you know, this is what's being put on him.
Back at Mr. Sims' mortuary funeral home, they show his remains, the monster's remains. But it brings up questions because Sissy said, they find him here like this, no one is going to believe us.
Mm-hmm.
And think back to your fresh eyes when you were watching this. They would have had to have this body to then give to the funeral home, right?
Yeah.
And then they would have seen it. So not only would he have been twisted up, he'd have been twisted up and burned on top of that. So do people believe you now?
Yeah, no.
Like it didn't change anything.
I think that was just like it just a piece that just didn't quite work and you know get put together. Now some people might say, oh well, you know, since the mortuary was in hell, he was already in hell and this is what it looked like, but you know maybe they did something different with his body in real life, blah blah blah, and so that the representations we see in the mortuary are not what happened in real life, you know,
right,
are not the actual real life thing that, you know, the cops or whoever would have seen.
That's what I'm saying. But at the time that you're watching it, you're not thinking, oh, it's not really a mortuary. So whatever. But what we've seen here is that they're supposedly burning him so that people won't know, because people wouldn't believe it, right? So they're just trying to cover up that, you know, basically they took him out. But then we see him in the next scene.
He still is a burnt pretzel.
Yeah. But I do think that with Mr. Sims, he's just telling stories, and what he's showing he can completely make up too. Because he did start off saying in the mind of a boy. about his perception and what he believed.
So how much of this story is even actually true, right? I mean, obviously I believe that the child was going through something and he saw this person as a monster, but did they really get the kill off in the end, or was it just a fight happened and then everybody went home? And that the fantasy is that he got, you know what I'm saying, that they got even, right, with this pretzel man situation. But the reality is that it didn't really happen. Like, to me, that's a good question.
Could the teacher be Walter?
Could the teacher be Walter? What you mean?
The teacher could be thinking back to his childhood, right? So he's wanted to do this to a monster, right? And that's why he handed the picture to Walter and say, you have to do this. You have to get rid of this monster.
So like the teacher is like an adult version of Walter.
No, or this is him rethinking, right? This is his fantasy of what happened in his childhood and what should have happened, right? That's what I think it could be. Or it could be, I don't think he's an adult version.
Okay.
I think it has to be that he is telling his childhood story. Could be.
That's interesting. So how does that fit in then, like with? Well, I guess like you said, the
mortuary.
Sims could be telling the story from any angle. At the end of the day, what matters is there was this monster and he got destroyed, and now he's a burnt pretzel.
Right, and Walter or the teacher could have been the one who destroyed him.
That's interesting. With it being like his fantasy, because the idea of like when people, how often do people really get their look back in life? I don't think it happens most of the time, right? It's just you're done wrong and you get over it, or you don't get over it and you just have to move on, right? You're told you have to move on. I think about all of the different types of injustices that happen to people, and not just in even these family situations. It's just like, all right, nothing's going to be done. You just have to move on. But the fantasy part of it is that somehow they get their comeuppance, right? They get what's coming to them. And this was kind of that,
Yeah, and it could be a story, because I think it's when Mr. Sims talks about the story of a boy, right? In the mind of a boy.
In the mind of a boy.
It could be the mind of the teacher who is the boy, right? It could be just a boy and he's thinking about his teacher, but I don't see why it can't be the teacher who's thinking back on his past, and it still would be the mind of a boy, because they say when you go through these events, you get stuck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's plausible.
Or it could be like you did say, that it's basically it happened to him and he sees that now he can do something, right? And what he wished he could have done as a kid.
Now, the only thing I think that might work against that idea is just the way that the teacher was clueless.
Yeah.
Like if you went through stuff, you kind of recognize the signs and symptoms, and this teacher just walked into it like he was completely clueless. But I like the idea that that this could just be the teacher's fantasy, because the other part about it is, if this is the teacher's fantasy, then the teacher could be operating as the teacher the way teachers were, right, to this boy, people not believing him, and at the same time being this hero coming in, helping to save the day and helping Walter.
Yeah, but he really didn't
it.
come in and say, I guess he contributed a little bit.
Well, he at least distracted him long enough to get Carl up off of them, because Carl was just like going to town.
Yeah.
Just brutal.
But yeah, I think it's a really good story that was told here.
So then the final thing that we hear on Walter's story is Sims say, Walter killed the monster.
Walter killed the monster.
And then we see, one of the guys say, but is that really how he got dropped?
Man, is that really how he got dropped?
Right. So now it kind of calls into question whether it's the truth that is being told here. And then in light of this conversation that we just had about, what it really could have been, did Walter really kill the monster? Was it his mother? What are the truths in this story? And then, we'd had that whole conversation about perception and the cornucopia and all that. It's a lot of gray in here.
It is, because just think, like, we know that they're in hell at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So they see this, but in reality, does any of these stories happened? Have they happened? We still have to go back to that question. But I think it's possible that the devil could tell tales of things that happened.
And then I think about what is a tale itself. You know, when I hear the word tale, like tale doesn't exactly mean like truth, exactly the way it happened, accurate account. You know, even tale and story might have slightly different connotations, right?
Yeah.
But this is a tale. And so I think there is room for
Some fabrication.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I did enjoy this story. You were talking about that you thought it was a good story.
Yeah, I think it's a good story. I think that for them to show him as a monster in the beginning, where we're thinking, oh, it's like a monster story. And then when he comes home and he's just basically, first thing is he yelling at somebody, arguing.
Mm-hmm.
I think they made it a good transition, right? To keep that. Now we're in another scary part. If you just come in and it's like, oh, this kid is getting beat by his daddy, that ain't scary. But if you like have this whole monster story and then you reveal the monster is a regular person, then it's still in the horror aspect. And then you gave him the serial killer glasses too. So,
and not to mention that, real people can be monsters. You think of monsters as these animals or other than human things, but that there are people who behave and act like monsters. And this is, I think a lot of times the case. Another thing I think they captured really well is just this idea of walking on eggshells. And anybody who's been around people who are, volatile like this, it's a life of living on eggshells. And who wants to deal with that? Like, they don't even have peace in their home. They have this monster interrupting the peace of their home. And it's shameful because it happens after the death of Walter's father. And this isn't his father. This is like some man from outside, right? Who's come in. He's not even the mother's husband yet at this point. And he's just wreaking havoc on their lives. And what's sad is, and what I wonder, because maybe she was a stay-at-home mother, is what is the financial situation that keeps her in that, Because there's a reason that maybe she wanted to also ignore, not just that he was maybe a good man to her, although I don't know about if you're, taking, headshots like that you'd go, oh, this is such a good man.
Yeah.
But the money. Right? He's
Right.
taking care of them. And we don't know what the struggle was after Walter's father died.
And as a horror story, we do get the perspective of a kid, right? So we may be into those psychological thrillers or monster slasher things that says, oh, this is scary to us. But to a kid, some man who comes into the home may be just as scary as a monster per se.
That's true. That's true. And it's sad. Like, when you really reflect on these types of stories, it is sad. But what do you think happened to Tyrone? Because like he got all balled up and then had to go to the hospital. What do you think about that? And what do you think that Walter was thinking about, his hand in that?
We may have to ask our medical expert that we have here on the channel. But if it's anything like the monster, then Tyrone is through. We seen the monster before Sissy stepped on the drawing.
Yeah,
so Tyrone
but he did the
was
paper
balled
different.
up. He balled the whole paper up though. I guess he didn't twist
But he
it all the way.
twisted the paper with his
with
Carl. He twisted that paper. Carl
but he
turned
still
into a
smashed
pretzel.
the other paper.
Yeah, that's true.
You completely balled up. I see a little different.
Yeah,
Look at
he's
that.
balling it with one hand. So do you think that when he balled the paper up that he knew or hoped that it was going to tear up Tyrone like that?
No, he didn't. I think he thought it was metaphorical as well. Oh, I just get rid of this, then my problems go away. But then they both knew. Because after the fact, when we get back to the actual monster, he knew to bend his arm like that, right? And then the teacher knew, oh, you know, you must have done this to Tyrone. At some point, the teacher had to realize he didn't twisted up Tyrone.
Do y'all think, go to the comments, do you think that the teacher knew by the time, you know, what happened to Carl happened, that Walter was the one who tore up Tyrone like that? That's hilarious. I didn't even think about that.
Did Walter realize that it happened when he bent the arm back?
Yeah, I think he did. Because I think the crease of that arm that was holding the skillet was deliberate.
Yes.
He was like, this is about to work.
So
crease.
Walter didn't know when he crumbled up the paper, I believe.
Yeah, I don't think he knew.
He didn't know, but once he found out that Tyrone was hurt, then yeah.
And what does it say about Walter as a person? Because I think that Walter could have easily been like, I'm going to proactively, you know, destroy the monster. Walter could have destroyed him even before all of this happened.
Yeah.
You know, you got all these pictures. You could have crumpled it up because he made the connection. No doubt when he's standing up in that window after that happens to the kid, he has made the connection. He knows.
But the teacher took the drawing. So maybe that was the only drawing.
Maybe.
Because the teacher showed up with it. So
yeah,
maybe
it just
that's
is unclear how that happened. And then, you know, I don't know. What do you think the nurse is thinking about?
I don't know.
Where was the nurse when, you know, Tyrone is crumpling up on the ground?
I don't know. The nurse is just like, dang, must have had weak bones.
That was the
the teacher, yeah.
The teacher,
but
boy must have had weak bones.
The nurse must have had to think that. Like, what else do you think? This dude just fell out of nowhere and just broke everything.
Man. But yeah, I to me, this is a really, really good tale. I always liked it because I felt it was one of the more relatable ones for me, you know, kind of like personally, because, you know, you have the tale of the brutality. That's relatable, but not exactly direct, you know, especially at that time. But this one is relatable because you know that everybody knows somebody who has had DV go on in their homes and stuff, you know, so everybody, it's a subject matter that is, I think, closer to a lot of people, you know, the crazy case story, you know, I'm not going around doing drive-bys on people. So like, I can't really relate to that except maybe as a victim of, you know, people who behave in that manner. So yeah, and then of course the other story, Triple K comeuppance with the dolls. Thank you to everybody for sticking with us to the end of Tales from the Hood, our breakdown of tale number 2, Boys Do Get Bruised. We appreciate all of you. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment on this video.
If you made it this far, type who you calling monster in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to check out axiom.app where you'll find all of our recent videos in one place. You'll find our merch there too. So be sure to visit us there.